Hello, everyone. This is Jennifer, and I'm coming in live from the CEOU suite, where we are going to be having an interesting conversation with a very well known gentleman, and he goes by the name of Professor Christopher Abraham, and people very fondly address him as Prof. Chris. So, welcome to the call, Professor. And before we actually step in, let me just give everyone a slight rundown as to who this amazing gentleman is. Christopher has been in charge of setting up the S.P. Jain School of Global Management. It's 10 years in its way of actually operating. It has done some remarkable work and has been considered as one of the leading colleges. And that's why I wanted to have a conversation with Christopher to find out from him, if change is constant and changing is a choice, what actually has he been able to facilitate in the college as a different way of managing education, encouraging people to look at change as a possibility. So welcome to the call, Prof. Chris, as you call yourself. And would you share with us as to what it is that you have been so amazingly able to facilitate as far as change? When I'm saying change is constant and change is a choice, can you share with us what it is that you have seen as the change of education and the systems and the policies and what have you? Feel free to talk.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure joining Ms. Ranadiv on this amazing podcast. Let me start with a beautiful quote from Steve Jobs. He said, "It's the crazy ones who think who can change the world, who actually do." And I think if you want to really bring about radical change, revolutionary change, you need to be a maverick. You need to be somebody who challenges the status quo, somebody who is a round peg in a square hole, somebody who is a rebel with a cause. And I think if you look at the constituents of S.P. Jain, the school that I represent, ranked among the top 10 in the world, I think it is that DNA which reverberates and makes us believe that, yes, as she rightly said, change is constant, but changing is a choice. We believe we are the chosen agents of change, especially in the field of business education. And to articulate how we have done it, I think we need to go step by step. The first thing was the radical innovation that we brought in our pedagogy. Our programs are multicultural, multi-country, multi-campus learning experiences. Why should we do that? Because we believe the world has become global, businesses have gone global, but business education, ironically enough, has not gone global.
So with that, Professor, I'd like to just interject. So can you just tell our listeners what are the amazing innovative ideas you have brought in that have actually made S.P. Jain to truly stand apart? Because it does.
It does. The first thing, as I said, is this radical innovation in terms of our program pedagogy, which today Harvard calls global intelligence. We never knew there was a term like that, but we were actually doing it before knowing it. And which means you create a leader, a manager, who is conversant with different cultures, who appreciates global diversity. Most importantly, he or she is ready to take on the world from a leadership position because they understand the different nuances of culture, subtleties of business practices, and the different ways by which leaders would lead teams across different geographies. This is innovation number one. Look at the innovation in terms of the teaching methodologies. We believe that the sage on the stage, the 20th century model, is almost obsolete and redundant. And if we don't take cognizance of the fact, we would become extinct. And in the 21st century, we don't need sages on stage because there's a much more faster, much more contemporary sage called the internet, the World Wide Web, which can give more relevant, more recent information. So what does the wise old man or wise old woman in front of the class do? They need to be coaches, they need to be mentors, they need to be facilitators of the process of learning. And so how do we do that? Flipped classrooms. which means traditional, conventional concepts would be learned at home. And when they come into the classroom, we engage them in games, in simulations, in case studies, and experiential learning. So we don't teach them concepts and theories because they're expected to study that at home. And when they come in, they interact with us as professors, and we call it immersive, engaged learning.
Yeah, so that's the point that I would like to talk about. I've got something that we actually do, and the way that we actually work it, and my whole concept is about how is it that we can be the chief engagement officers of our life and living. You mentioned stages on stages, pretty cool one. I like that. What I was wanting to know is, are people open? And I believe that you're one of the foremost leaders in the education system here, which allows for not to break the status quo as to we have to follow instruction. So there's no instruction based education or systems of educating people. What you're bringing is something that is going to be more interactive, where you're not looking down on the person who because they're young, but you're looking at what it is that they have that possibly could be an added value for everyone in the classroom. So would you like to say something on that, Professor?
Let me add on to this whole concept of learning. So if you look at the neuroscience of learning, when did we really enjoy learning? We enjoyed learning when it was fun. We enjoyed learning when we realized what is the outcome and how do I benefit out of it. So what we've done is we have actually tried to marry the concept of the traditional instructional model, complementing it with engaged immersive learning. So I introduced the concept of flipped classroom. How do we do that? And I said concepts and theories are studied at home. We have a professional tie-up with McGraw-Hill, probably the leading publisher in the world. And it's called an adaptive learning platform. The platform believes in something called agile learning, which takes two concepts into consideration. Concept number one, each of us as learners have different levels of understanding for different subjects. Inside the classroom, in a traditional classroom, the professor has a major challenge. Any professor, any teacher has a major challenge because it's bell curve in its gory manifestation. You have 20 to 30% of the people who say the professor's too slow because my brain is working fast, understanding fast, and learning fast. And ironically enough, you have a 20% who say the professor is going too fast because I can't understand and I'm not able to learn. And then you have the large average. Now, the professor in the conventional model doesn't have a mechanism, doesn't have a tool to actually address this dilemma. In the adaptive learning platform, which we have tied up and created along with McGraw-Hill, content is provided by our professors. McGraw-Hill provides a technology platform. It is the opposite of one size fits all. So we have a group of 50 people, and 50 people come in this 20, 60, 20 bell curve model. So each one learns at their own pace. The whole model is designed in such a way, the videos, the quizzes, the learning, the interaction online is all based on different paces at which different students learn. But when they come into the class after a week of conceptual learning through the adaptive learning model, everybody is at the same starting point. Then when the professor brings in a case study, he or she brings in a simulation, he or she brings in a business game to be played in class where you apply the concepts and theory, it becomes very engaging, very exciting because there's a lot of interaction with people who have a semblance of knowledge which is almost at the same starting point for every one of them in the class. And I think this is a huge radical innovation.
Right. So if you were to talk about what sort of change, what sort of results have you seen this actually create? And I'm quite sure they're phenomenal. But would you like to share with us? Because, Christopher, we are talking to people who have been in status quo. The educational systems, quite honestly, if I was in it right now, would suffocate. Okay?
Oh, you said it.
Okay, it is it is saddened. It saddens me to see that every child is being put into this, it's almost like a processing thing, just go in and square peg, round hole scenario. It's ridiculous because you are not even trying to pull out what each and every child or individual or young adult truly has as a skill that could complement. Now, it also goes with the way our society functions, unfortunately, and it is more about how is it that we, because we're a certain age, we have to have all the answers. Well, I beg to differ there. I thought it was the craziest thing. So the question here is, how open are you all as the teachers, the professors, to truly learn also from your students? How open are you?
Very interesting. Let me go back in history. The current education system that most of the world follows is a legacy from the Industrial Revolution. So the assembly line, batch line processing is still what we follow inside the classroom. Yeah. Ironically, the world has moved, the technologies have moved, and all the other areas we have seen phenomenal development with education, which should be at the forefront, lagging behind.
Yeah.
So yes, are we teaching them the right skills? Not really. Do we know what right skills we should teach them? I don't think we're still there. Let me give you a couple of examples. The earlier concept of creativity was that creativity is something that you're born with. You're a creative genius or you're not. That's a myth that's now being broken by neuroscience and cognitive psychology and the new revelations that we have about our own understanding of our biology, thanks to quantum biology and other fields. So, are there mechanisms currently in the education system that allows the student community, and I'm talking about student community right from the primary school to the highest levels, tertiary education? I think the answer is still the rote method. We're still about chalk and talk. We're still about the sage on stage having all the answers. I think the answers today are available. What we need to teach our kids right from the primary school is to ask the right questions. Okay. So I think we don't do that at the moment. And that's a huge lacuna in the system. And I'm extremely passionate and disgruntled when I see, because I train my students to ask questions. The answers are already there. Do I know to ask the right questions? If I can ask the right questions, I would get the right answers. Yeah, so I train them in the art of what we call starting with why. Do we tell them why? And can we make them realize the importance of why?
But the funny thing is this, that whenever our kids are growing up and they say, why mommy this and why daddy this, we get really irritated and pissed off at them, don't we? The other thing is that, as you were talking, something really came up for me, and it was, I have a child who's with Down syndrome. She's not a child anymore, she's 30 years old. But the weirdest thing is that I did not ever, or could not ever, have Sasha go into this so-called structured school thing, and my God, am I pleased that I didn't have to do that. She's with special needs. I had to learn how to communicate, how to ask her questions. So my question to you earlier was, have you ever learned anything from the students? Because I know I, as a mum, have been taught by Sasha, who facilitated me, being special needs, as to how we can be different in how we approach education.
Let me share a very interesting new insight in leadership. Leaders are taught how to persuade. Leaders are taught how to influence. Leaders are taught how to convince. Leaders are also taught how to control. But the question is, are leaders taught how to be persuadable? Which means, do they have the humility to learn from others?
Do they have vulnerability?
Yes, and the vulnerability to accept their vulnerability and understand that learning can happen from anybody, and in this case, from our students.
Absolutely.
I think we need to run sessions and workshops for the powers that be, which includes the faculty fraternity.
Absolutely.
Telling them.
When can I actually sign you up for one of those? Because I'm going to do it myself with you. I do it from a totally different perspective, Professor. and it is more about change. My mantra as the CEO you of your life and living is change is constant. Changing is the choice. So we are seeing things that are changing around us. When is it? Do we have to be kicked off the radar before we actually wake up and smell the roses?
Oh, yeah.
So, having said that, any one piece of advice that you would like to give my listeners?
Be crazy.
Be weird, man.
Be really crazy to believe that you can change the world. And the ones who really believed and were crazy enough to change the world are the ones who actually changed. I believe in that. And if you could continue to have that craziness, to believe in that, you will certainly change the world for the better.
Well, thank you very much, Prof. Chris, as I would call you. That was Professor Christopher, an amazing educator, facilitator, inventor, and a person who truly believes that change is possible. And guess why I'm actually talking to him? He talks about something that is so close to my heart. So, Prof. Chris, thank you very much for your time, and I will be coming back to you because I have to do another interview with you, and that is about you being something called a certified design thinker. So thank you very much for your time, and for everyone out there, this is Jennifer signing off. Take care, God bless, and what else can we create together to make it absolutely fun?
Absolutely. Together we create magic.
Magic, absolutely.
God bless you.
God bless you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.